Welcome to our documentary on the top 5 deadliest battles in history. Throughout the course of human events, mankind has unfortunately perfected the art of war. In this series, we will take you to some of the most harrowing battlefields in history. In this video, we'll explore the leaders, the number of deaths and injuries, and the main weapons used in each of these devastating conflicts. The battles we will cover span centuries and continents. Join us as we journey to the battlefields, examine the weaponry, and explore the stories of those who fought and died in these pivotal moments in history. Our journey into the heart of human conflict takes us first to the city of Stalingrad, now known as Volgograd, Russia. Here on the banks of the Volga River, two colossal military forces, one German, the other Soviet, collided in a maelstrom of destruction. Leading the German Sixth Army was General Friedrich Paulus, a meticulous strategist tasked with capturing the industrial powerhouse that was Stalingrad. On the Soviet side, General Vasily Chuikov commanded the city's defense, transforming buildings into fortresses and his men into a tenacious enemy. The battle lines were drawn, and the city itself became the objective. What ensued was a gruesome struggle for every street, every building, and every inch of ground. The German blitzkrieg faltered in the face of the Soviets' unwavering resolve. Adding to the carnage was the bitter cold of the Russian winter. Temperatures plummeted, freezing men solid where they fell. The Volga, a lifeline for the city, became choked with ice and debris. Amidst this frozen hellscape, a new kind of urban warfare emerged. Snipers, hidden among the ruins, became the unseen hand of death. Tanks dueled in the streets, their cannons echoing through the skeletal remains of buildings. Close-quarters combat, brutal and unforgiving, became the order of the day. The main weapons of this conflict reflected the industrial scale of the war: tanks like the German Tiger and the Soviet T-34. Artillery rained down on the city, reducing everything to rubble. The true horror of Stalingrad lay not just in the mechanized carnage, but in the human cost. Nearly 2 million soldiers and civilians perished in the fighting. By February 1943, the German Sixth Army, exhausted, surrounded, and decimated by casualties and the brutal winter, surrendered to the Soviets. Our next destination takes us to the rolling fields of the Somme River in France, a landscape forever scarred by the events of 1916. Here, amidst the trenches and barbed wire of the First World War, a battle of unimaginable brutality unfolded: the Battle of the Somme. On one side stood the British and French armies, led by Field Marshal Douglas Haig and General Joseph Joffre. Tasked with breaking the stalemate of trench warfare, they planned a massive offensive against the entrenched German forces. On the German side, General Erich von Falkenhayn, chief of the German General Staff, had prepared his defences with meticulous care. The battle commenced on July 1st, 1916, and the world watched in horror as a new era of mechanized warfare unfolded. The British, in a display of tragic miscalculation, unleashed a massive artillery bombardment intending to obliterate the German defences. As the barrage lifted and the British soldiers went over the top, they were met with a storm of machine gun fire that cut swathes through their ranks. For months, the battle raged on, a bloody stalemate characterized by small gains and horrific casualties. Over 1 million soldiers on both sides lay dead or wounded, their bodies scattered across the battlefield. We journey now to Verdun, a city in northeastern France, forever etched in the annals of history for the horrific battle it endured in 1916. The Battle of Verdun, a struggle for national pride and survival, would become a symbol of French resilience and the brutal attrition of World War I. Leading the German offensive was Chief of the General Staff Erich von Falkenhayn, the architect of a plan designed not to conquer territory, but to bleed France white. Facing him was French General Philippe Pétain, entrusted with defending Verdun at all costs. Falkenhayn's strategy hinged upon a simple yet chilling premise: to inflict such heavy casualties on the French that they would be compelled to sue for peace. Verdun, a fortress city steeped in history, became the focal point of this gruesome calculus. The battle commenced in February 1916 with a thunderous German artillery bombardment. Millions of shells rained down on the French positions, transforming the verdant landscape into a lunar wasteland of craters and shattered trees. As the infantry assault commenced, the Germans encountered fierce resistance from the French defenders. "They shall not pass," became the rallying cry of the French army. The battle for Verdun devolved into a nightmarish meat grinder of trench warfare. The main weapons of this conflict mirrored those of the Somme artillery, machine guns, and poison gas. Despite the relentless German onslaught, the French defenders clung tenaciously to their positions. By December 1916, the German offensive had ground to a halt, their forces depleted and their objective of bleeding France white unrealized. Our journey through the annals of history now takes us across the Atlantic to the United States, where a nation divided by ideology clashed on the battlefields of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The Battle of Gettysburg, a pivotal moment in the American Civil War, would determine the fate of a nation and leave an enduring legacy on the American conscience. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought over 3 scorching days in July 1863, was a clash of ideologies and military might. The fate of the Union hung in the balance as brother fought brother. The first day of battle saw Confederate forces push Union troops through the town of Gettysburg and onto the high ground south of town. Cemetery Hill, Culp's Hill, and Little Round Top became the focal points of the Union defense. The second day's fighting raged across the wheat field, the peach orchard, and Devil's Den. Confederate troops, led by General James Longstreet, launched ferocious assaults against the Union left flank, but the Union defenders held firm. On the third day, the fate of the battle hinged on a desperate gamble by General Lee Pickett's charge. Nearly 15,000 Confederate soldiers advanced across a mile of open ground towards the Union center on Cemetery Ridge. The main weapons of this conflict were a reflection of the Industrial Revolution. Rifled muskets like the Springfield Model 1861 and the Enfield rifle offered greater accuracy and range. Cannons, both rifled and smoothbore, roared their deadly symphony of destruction. As Pickett's charge surged forward, they were met by a storm of Union artillery and rifle fire. The Confederate ranks were decimated, their advance faltering under the withering fire. Facing him was the newly appointed Union commander, General George Meade, tasked with halting Lee's invasion of the North. Leading the Confederate forces was General Robert E. Lee, a brilliant tactician revered by his troops. Our final destination takes us to the rolling farmlands of western Maryland, where on a crisp autumn day in 1862, the course of the American Civil War hung in the balance. The Battle of Antietam, a single day of unimaginable carnage, would prove to be the bloodiest in American history. Leading the Confederate army was General Robert E. Lee, emboldened by recent victories. Facing him was General George B. McClellan, commanding the Union Army. The battle took shape near Sharpsburg, Maryland, along the banks of Antietam Creek. The landscape, with its fields of corn and ripening fruit trees, would soon be transformed into a scene of unimaginable carnage. The fighting began at dawn on September 17, 1862, and raged throughout the day. Confederate and Union soldiers clashed in a series of bloody encounters across the fields and through the West Woods. The cornfield became a killing ground, its stalks stained crimson with blood. The Dunker Church stood as a silent sentinel to the carnage, its walls pockmarked by bullets. One of the most haunting images from Antietam is that of the Bloody Lane, a sunken road that became a death trap for hundreds of Confederate soldiers. By nightfall, the Battle of Antietam had ground to a bloody stalemate. The casualties were staggering, over 22,000 men killed, wounded or missing. Thank you for watching our documentary on the top 5 deadliest battles in history. We've journeyed across time and continents, exploring the battlefields, examining the weaponry, and reflecting on the human cost of these pivotal moments in history. The battles we've covered serve as stark reminders of the brutality of war and the importance of striving for peace. The stories of those who fought and died in these conflicts must never be forgotten. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical documentaries.